Hey guys, Jason up New Age Revolution, down here in the cave, just for a very sad and unexpected video. I just found out about an hour and a half ago that Brodie Lee has died unexpectedly. I assume unexpectedly. I assume suddenly. Brodie Lee was, I guess, known on the bigger stage when he was Luke Harper in the WWE, and then Brodie Lee in AEW. Many of you know, and many of you don't know, that he was Brodie Lee on the independent circuit for many, many years, since early 2000s. And Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, is from Rochester, New York. And as you guys know, I am from Rochester, New York. Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, lived, his family was from a town called Irondequoit, which is about 15 minutes from me. In fact, my in-laws live in that town. And I've watched Brodie Lee ever since I started going to local independent wrestling shows in the early 2000s. He started out in the local wrestling, wrestling in front of. I remember the smallest crowd that I went to see him at was at a little. It was called the Dojo. It was a karate school, and those aren't big. And the ring took up the whole floor, and there were seats on one side of the ring, and it sat about 60 people. And it was half full. So, this is probably 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, when he was known as Huber Boy, and clean-shaven, baby-faced, short hair, and then he grew into like the Brodie Lee persona, and he wore a dirty white tank top and dirty jeans to the ring, and you could just see that beard starting to grow out and the hair starting to grow out. And he was just this, almost like this Bruiser Brody, Nord the Barbarian, kind of wild man in the ring. And that's where, the Luke Harper and the Brodie Lee character started to develop right here in Rochester. And with those indie shows, now I'm not going to say that Brodie Lee and I were best pals. Of course, we didn't even know each other. But when we would go to those indie shows, and we would go to, at one point in time there was probably 4 or 5 indie federations right here in Rochester, and Brodie would be affiliated with probably 2 or 3 of them at the same time. And so he would wrestle monthly in Rochester, and I would go monthly. That's where I would go. My father-in-law and I would go. My sister-in-law and I would go. Sometimes my old best friend Scott and I would go, and we knew one of the guys who at one point co-owned one of the small federations in town, and so we would get there early, or we would always be right in the front row. And one of the coolest things I remember was Brodie Lee, Jon Huber was taking on another indie guy, and they came outside the ring to fight, and I was in the front row, 6 or 7 beers into the night, of course, and Brodie backed his opponent up into the guardrail. And he had me hold his arms behind him. So I was holding on to the opponent and he was trying to sell and get away from me. I was barely, I wasn't, but I was holding the opponent, and Brodie gave him a big giant chop across the chest, and I held the opponent, over the guardrail, and it was awesome, you know. And even as like an adult, that's a little kid. I was older than Brodie Lee when he did that, but that was a pretty cool, wrestling fan moment, to be able to hold the wrestler while the other wrestler gives him a chop. What a cool moment. I don't know. So anyway, that's. We ran into him probably 4 years ago or so at a little town 4th of July festival. I think he was on injury from WWE, and he came home to heal, and he was with his friends at this at the town festival, at the 4th of July festival, just knocking back some beers and listening to music and just walking around as if he was just a no normal person. And of course I'm acting like a childish wrestling fan, and I joked with him and said I would trade him a beer for a photo, and he refused the beer, and we took a photo together though. So my son and I enjoyed some AEW, and I just bought Santa. No, it was from me. I just bought him his Brodie Lee action figure yesterday for Christmas, because AEW hasn't made one yet. So if he wants to use Brodie Lee in his wrestling federation, I had to get him the WWE one. And it's just grossly ironic that we just opened that figure yesterday, and I'm shocked. I'm still shocked. Not just because it's another wrestler, but it's a very young, healthy person, without any, without anything known to us, to fans, or to the public, without any, this is shocking. There's been some stuff on Twitter. His wife, who's local, wrote some stuff about he died of non-COVID related lung infection or lung issues, and I don't know what that means. I can't wrap my head around that. I don't understand what that means. Pneumonia. I don't know. It's not cancer. You don't perform at that high level and then die, 3 weeks after of something like a lung cancer. That's not the case. We've read on Twitter that the Mayo Clinic might have been involved. She thanked them publicly. So I don't know. And then you hear stuff like this, and you just run around and you spin in your head trying to figure out exactly what the heck happened. And you go back and forth with it could have been this or it could have been that. And I don't know. I just know that an hour ago I had to explain to my kid that Brodie Lee won't be on TV anymore, and that's hard. He has his own children. He has 2 sons. One is awesomely named Brodie. And one of his sons was at the festival, at the Irondequoit Town Festival, when I met him and asked him for a picture. And he was with his son, and he shuffled his kid behind him and took the picture with me. And I walked back to the table where I was hanging out and thought, God, why would I do that? Why would I ask him for a photo when he's hanging out with his kid? But he obliged, of course. But he has 2 sons, and from all the pictures that we've seen online, I don't want to talk like I knew somebody, but from all the stuff that we've seen, all the stuff that marks and regular people have been privy to, he loved his sons more than anything in the world. I've gathered from the photos, and they seem to be the biggest wrestling fans. There was a whole run of pictures on Instagram of Brodie bringing his kids to one of the last AEW shows that he was at, and the kids just hanging out in the ring with, all the AEW guys. And something happened at the tapings a couple of weeks ago where Brodie's 7 or 8-year-old son defeated Kenny Omega and was declared the AEW champion, and that was at the tapings, and I don't know if that airs. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if that's hindsight or some kind of weird something. I don't know. But I don't know what that's going to be about. But that's the worst part of all of this, is that those two boys, who again I don't know, and I don't want to I don't want to sound like I'm an authority on this or anything, but I am an authority on having sons. And I can't even imagine what's happening in that family right now. So sad news out of the wrestling world today. Sad news out of the local scene, and just sad news in general. 41-year-old Brodie Lee / Luke Harper, Jon Huber, is dead at 41. Rest in peace, Big Rig Brodie Lee.